Well, it seems that hate crimes against the 2S LGBTQIA+ community in Canada are so prevalent, it takes a sitting member of provincial parliament to manufacture one out of whole cloth, apparently. Viva Frei, former Montreal litigator turned rumbler turned locals content creator at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I am a Canadian citizen through and through. I was born and raised in Canada. It is my country. It is my home. It will always be my home. That doesn't mean it's not being turned into a prison by the politicians that are currently destroying this country. I love Canada. I will always love Canada, even if Canada, through its government, has chased me away. Now, with that being said, I have returned to Canada for the summer, and I was advised by some of my friends and colleagues that there was a protest in Ottawa entitled Education, Not Indoctrination, being put on by Josh Alexander, the 17-year-old high school kid who has been kicked out of high school for affirming that there are only two sexes and that a man breastfeeding a baby might border on behavior that is somewhat problematic, to say the least. Billboard Chris, with his famous billboards or his infamous billboards, depending on who you ask, was also there. I went there to document the protest, to live stream the protest, to talk to people on the street, both for and against the protest, because there were lots of counter-protesters there, although a lot of them did not want to talk to me.
There's like a mini front within the front. I might be able to get a conversation with someone here. Before I turn my camera around on you, would you mind talking to me? I'm surprisingly nice.
Are you supporting this?
I am a document. Well, I wouldn't say I support this now.
Then no.
But so why wouldn't you talk to someone who doesn't support it? If you talk to someone who does support it,
I don't need to, because you're wrong.
But then why be here if you're not going to talk to anybody about it?
I'm here for my son. Now, could you kindly fuck off?
Well, I'm going to not move, but
I don't.
No, you're not on camera. You're not. Well, first of all, you're in a public spot, but you're not on camera. Don't worry about it. Very polite. Not very polite. Doesn't give permission to be on camera while protesting in public. There you have the logic, I think, that you might see more often than not on the other side.
I went there to live stream it. I had an amazing experience live streaming it. I actually got two counter-protesters to talk to me. I now understand the counter-protesters a little more, and I dare say one, if not both of them, might rethink at least some of their positions.
Do you understand a woman who might say that as a biological male, to say that another biological male who identifies as being female becomes female, how that could be erasure for the woman? So you say that women are not a biological creature, they're a series of patterns.
Well, same was with a man. I think that's just everything in general. Like, that sounds optically bad. That sounds misogynistic, or it sounds misandrous going.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
Bone density is one of the only things that is unreversible, but the difference is actually negligible. There are other factors that could cause you to have lower bone density, like lack of vitamin D.
True, but those are medical issues that cause you to have a problem, not cosmetic alterations.
I don't think that the level of, how do I put this? I don't think that it justifies the level of outrage that we see at it. Medications that have been given to kids, again, for years, for decades, suddenly are this huge culture war issue. I just don't buy it.
So that is to say, then you would oppose a ban on administering puberty blockers, hormone replacement therapy, top surgeries, bottom surgeries to children.
My inclination is towards human freedom. Like, that's one of my core axioms. I think that anything that bans somebody's freedom to do with their own body what they choose, yeah, I'm against that.
But you realize the obvious reductio of that is, if a child chooses to have sex, that would be a problem in that it's illegal.
The reason that that's a problem is because children are too young to have sex.
I had an amazing discussion with a transgender individual who was attending both sides of the protest, and we had an amazing, enlightening discussion. Even people who disagree with Julia are inclined to say if everyone on both sides of this debate were as thoughtful as Julia, I think there would be a lot more public disagreement than there currently is.
What is your position on allowing it for children, even with parental consent and even with medical consent?
I believe in nuance. Like, I am not unilaterally against childhood transition, but I'm also not for no bar like we have now. I like where we were about 15 years ago, where the general advice in the medical system then was, if a little 5-year-old comes up to you and says, they're a boy, and they say, I'm a girl, we don't socially transition them. We wait. We watch them, though. We meet with them every 6 months, every year, to see how they're doing, because most of them, the vast majority, grow out of that. If they're persistent when they're 12 and 13, maybe we do intervene at that point. I'm okay with that. However, we move to a place now where that 5-year-old says it, we do a social transition there and then. And at that point, they don't have a chance to see if their birth sex is going to work. Similarly, when a 12 or 13-year-old comes out and suddenly says they feel gender dysphoric and have never said it before, we used to wait. We go, okay, this is brand new. We should wait a few years and see what happens. Now we jump right in. And I know why we do it. We do it because of people like me who don't get to pass because I didn't transition when I was young. But I'm half the story. I also know detransitioners who deeply regret a transition they've gone into, and that doesn't work either. So I believe that this is nuanced, this is complex, and we can't just have a one size fits all solution. And that's why I support Chris, not because I agree with everything he says, but I think that having conversations I don't agree with is how we that idea.
But I was there. I documented in real time, unedited, over 3.5 hours of this protest, and it came and it went. There were some kerfuffles, but all said and done, there wasn't really any overt acts of violence, or so I thought, until I got home and saw a tweet from one Joel Harden, a sitting member of provincial parliament for the NDP, who said that he got punched in the face by a protester at that protest. I don't want to call him a liar right off the bat, but I have my doubts that a sitting member of provincial parliament was punched in the face by an anti-trans protester, and it wasn't headline news leading to criminal investigations in real time at that moment. I see this tweet from Joel Harden and I say to myself, I don't want to call you a liar, but I certainly am thinking it. There were cameras there all day long, multiple cameras. Everybody had a phone in their hand. There were at least a half dozen, if not a full dozen, probably more, people live streaming this in real time. If a sitting member of provincial parliament were assaulted by an anti-trans protester, there would have been arrests. It would have been headline news. It would have been all over Canadian media. So when all I see is a tweet from Joel Harden, retweeted or quote tweeted by Jagmeet Singh, conveniently worded, by the way, because it was conveniently quote tweeted in a way that Jagmeet Singh was not repeating what I suspect he knew was a lie from the get-go. When all I see is a quote tweet from Jagmeet Singh, a tweet from Joel Harden, and one article in Yahoo News that came out a day later, there was a quote in a CTV News article just re-quoting Joel Harden. When that's all the coverage I see when a sitting member of provincial parliament was allegedly violently assaulted by anti-trans this is a legacy media. This is a Justin Trudeau subsidized media headline dream. But when all I see is a tweet from the individual, a quote tweet from a partisan hack that is Jagmeet Singh, and a little more, my goodness, do my spidey senses start tingling. And my goodness, did the aggregate knowledge of the interwebs seemingly find an answer to this riddle. Spoiler alert, it would seem that Joel Harden fabricated an alleged hate crime against a sitting member of provincial parliament, and it seems that the media is somewhat quiet about it, so let's make some noise, shall we?
Right to jail.
Now, full disclosure, I have never been punched in the face, so I don't know what it feels like, but I do know what it looks like because I have watched a lot of UFC, and when I looked at that nick on Joel Harden's face, I said, my goodness, that's a little sharp for it to have been a fist. It looks like something of a slice, so to speak. People were making jokes that he had just popped a pimple or that he nicked himself shaving. It was definitely there. Something definitely happened to him. And by the way, if it turned out that he was in fact assaulted by anybody, I would want to find out who did it and hold them to account as much as anybody else. All that to say, I was suspicious from the get-go, and I said, look, Joel, I don't want to call you a liar, but I certainly am thinking it. Show us the video evidence of what happened, because it is inconceivable. Inconceivable, and I'm using that word properly. It is inconceivable that with all the cameras there, especially from the people on his side who were recording everything, it's inconceivable it was not caught on camera. More importantly, it is inconceivable it would not have been swiftly dealt with on the moment via arrest, because people were in fact arrested at that protest, but lo and behold, it was no one on the education, not indoctrination side. The only people who were arrested there seemingly were Antifa members of the counter-protesters. People were arrested, just nobody who allegedly assaulted a sitting member of provincial parliament. So I say none of this makes sense. It makes no sense that, if true, mainstream media is not all over this. It makes no sense that, if true, the Ottawa Provincial Police or the RCMP are not immediately investigating this as a hate crime. It makes no sense that, if it indeed occurred, the person who did it would not have been swiftly arrested, charged, and mainstream media would have run with the headlines, because this is exactly what they would have wanted in the first place. So I say, Joel, I'm not calling you a liar, but I'm thinking it. Show us the evidence. And I private DM him, and I ordinarily don't show DMs, but I'm going to show this one, even though he didn't respond to it, so it's technically me just saying it. I say, Joel, show me the video evidence of you being assaulted, and I will publicly apologize to you. Well, Joel did not respond to that DM, and I suspect it's because there is no such evidence, because the incident as described by Joel probably never happened. But whoa, lo and behold, the aggregate knowledge of the internet took hold of this file. They investigated thoroughly. We created a movement. We had everyone on this, finding pictures, finding videos from all angles, time-stamping it. And we think we have found the assailant. And lo and behold, it might just very well be Joel Harden's bullhorn. We We must give credit where credit is due, and this was definitely an internet team effort. Everybody pulling clips, tweets, pictures from all angles, time-stamping them, I don't know if they were geolocating them, but they were certainly temporally locating them. It seems that Karima came across the key piece of evidence, which might suggest that Joel was in fact not necessarily punched in the face, but rather had his bullhorn hit his own face. Whether or not someone shoved him, pushed him, hit the bullhorn into his face, it seems that Karima found the smoking gun evidence indicating that Joel Harden
is a bold-faced liar.
Whether or not Joel might have been shoved, pushed, hit in the face somewhere else at some other point in time during that protest remains to be seen. One wants to leave all possibilities open. One thing remains pretty certain at this point in time. His tweet was slightly misleading, if not an overt lie in an attempt to spark what is nothing more than a war among two factions by demonizing one of them as having committed what is, under Canadian law,
a hate crime.
The cut on his face that he indicated came from a punch, and he would take punches from protesters all day for the benefit of trans and LGBTQ kids. That little cut, that sharp-edged cut on the upper right thing on his thing here, what is this called? The cheekbone? Well, that locates exactly to where we see that bullhorn seemingly embedded in his face in the images that Karima posted on Twitter. And the fact that this is probably exactly what happened, and there probably is exactly zero video evidence of a sitting member of provincial parliament being physically, violently assaulted by anti-trans protesters, is probably exactly why it doesn't seem that the police were looking into this. It doesn't seem that the media was looking into this. It didn't seem like Justin Trudeau gave one sweet bugger all about this, because he didn't tweet about it. And there is no crisis too small, too insignificant for Justin Trudeau to jump all over in order to demonize a swath of the Canadian population. The silence by the authorities, by the mainstream media, by Canadian politicians in this story was absolutely damning, and it's probably because it never happened in the first place. And now I ask to Jagmeet Singh, who quote tweeted Joel Harden, is he going to apologize for this? Is he going to demand that Joel Harden issue some sort of correction, retraction, as though that could possibly right the wrong of having lied about an apparent hate crime for the purposes of demonizing good, peace-loving Canadians? Could that even right this wrong at this point in time?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
That remains to be seen. It remains to be seen whether or not the Justin Trudeau subsidized mainstream legacy rubbish media of Canada is going to cover this story, now that it seems not as though a member of provincial parliament was assaulted by an anti-trans protester, but that he lied about it. That seems newsworthy. That seems very newsworthy. And if they don't cover it, my goodness, does it just confirm that they are nothing more than government propagandists? You know what? Even if they do cover it, they are still government propagandists, but this story might have just gotten a little too big for the government propagandists to ignore, so now they've got to try to cover it, pretend that they cover it, and then sweep it under the rug. And now look what I've done. I've gotten myself heated up. Literally, I am schwitzing like a pig in my car, although pigs don't schwitz. I'm schwitzing like a dude who makes videos in his car. My goodness, you know, we used to say in the practice of law, you don't have to tell the truth, but just don't lie. It seems that Joel Harden couldn't even respect this basic rule of humanity. You don't have to tell the truth, but my goodness, just don't lie. It was so good to lie in the moment, to try to demonize good, peace-loving Canadians, because everyone's going to believe the lie. My goodness, he was punched in the face by anti-trans I was there for 3.5 hours. I saw no acts of violence from the anti-trans protesters, from the education, not indoctrination side. I did see some violence. It was certainly not from them, as indicated by the fact that the only people arrested there seemingly were on the other side of the protest. But it seems that Joel Harden just couldn't do it. He just couldn't be quiet. He had to actively lie. And my goodness, if you're going to lie, don't lie when there are cameras all around you to prove your lie a lie. Well done. You played yourself. And with that said, make some noise, make this story known, because Lord knows, had it been an actual hate crime against Joel Harden or anyone else on the trans side of the protest, it would have been national, international headline news for months. I say, in as much as someone fakes a hate crime, the punishment should be the same as for the hate crime itself. Well, the publicity should be the same for this incident as it would have been if it were in fact a bona fide hate crime. And with that said, it's a sunny, beautiful Sunday morning. I'm sitting in a steaming car. I'm going to go fishing because I love fishing, but in as much as I love fishing, I feel an obligation to get this video out. And if you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Go to Locals if you want to support us. $7 a month, $70 a year for something of a discount.
VivaBarneslaw.locals.com.
VivaBarneslaw.locals.com if you want to get some merch. VivaFrei.com. But more important than anything else, check in on friends and family. Make sure everyone around you is doing well. You don't have to tell the truth, but my goodness, just don't lie. And now you know your vlog. Peace out.